Right. Well, thanks very much for joining in, and especially some of those of you who live on the east coast of USA. I know it's a bit late, but we'll get through this pretty quick. And like I said, you're going to have this available to go through afterwards anyway. All right. For some of you here will have already done my original course last year, which was okay, but it was a little bit messy. And there was a lot of things that I could have improved on, and I am improving on with this course. So this new course is really completely revamped from what I've done before. And there's a few things that I've really made a big difference. And one of them is going to be the practical side of things. There wasn't enough practical stuff. There wasn't enough live sessions with me. So this course is going to be not only a lot more easy to go through and actually find stuff. Because whereas before we had lesson one, it was one video, and obviously that was just no good because it was very difficult to go back and find stuff and whatnot. So this time it's going to be a lot more structured, a lot more broken down into easily findable, if you like, chunks. So there will be lots of videos, there will be lots of voice recordings and stuff like that, but the video might only be 3 minutes, and it'll be maybe to go deeper into a subject or whatever you're going through when you're actually going through the lesson online. All right. It's going to last, I think, 6 months, because it's going to be at least 3 months, of practical application, going through case studies, going through your case studies as well, and really getting to get some practical experience so that you can pick this up, because it's all about the practical stuff. Yeah. You know, we can learn all the theory and that's great, but until you start to apply this stuff, it can be quite difficult, because you just can't get your head around. But once you start applying it, once you start being a little bit more practical with this, it's amazing how quick you can pick up some stuff. And I can tell you now, when I did my training with biomedics in Chicago, I did a lot of training way back then. I can remember the trainer coming out, George Atkinson's his name was, brilliant trainer. And the first thing he said, look, I just want everyone to understand and appreciate and respect that what you're learning here is very, very powerful. It's going to give you a lot of power. Oh, hang on, it's going to. Yeah, so you're being handed a lot of power. There are tools, there are methods, there are processes that you really need to understand, and can really have a big effect on people's lives very, very quickly. So yeah, so you're being offered a lot of power here. There's an enormous amount of power, and I'll just give you one quick example. I'm also starting to do mentorships, if you like, to mentor people who want to do biohacking professionally. I'm mentoring them. I'm helping them set the business up. I'm helping them to structure everything as far as what I'm doing, and I'm mentoring them, and I'm sharing. I'm doing the consults with them and all this sort of stuff. And I'll just give you one example. Now, this person in the UK, this client who's now doing her first client, came to her, and he was seriously in trouble with his cardiovascular system. He was very, very sick. He was seriously troubled with his cardiovascular system. I think he was at risk of heart attack and whatnot. Anyway, I co-presented the consult, and we did some mentoring, and we got him on his way. He came back within 2 weeks, a completely changed man. And then he went to a specialist, and the specialist was amazed of the difference from when he'd seen him before. This is only in 2 weeks. Okay, so some of the stuff you're going to pick up here, be it if you're working as a professional or you're doing it for yourself and you want to learn for yourself, or you want to learn for yourself and then help your family. There are some things you'll pick up here that you'll be able to apply straight away and make a big difference. Okay, it's amazing how powerful this stuff is. My whole focus, as probably most of you will know, is respecting the fact that we have a healing mechanism, we have a healing machine within our body. That's the only thing that can heal. Yeah, I can't heal you, you can't heal you. There's no such thing as a healer as such, really. It's about the body. The body can heal if only it's given the environment to do so. Okay, and as this picture here, you know, it's so many people are not aware that this is the case. No, so many people are not aware that we have all the resources we need, or we may have all the resources we need. If we don't, we have to get them. But it's all about just making sure that we provide the environment for healing to happen. So I look at this whole process more of a little bit like an enabler. We're an enabler, a facilitator, an enabler of healing. And we've got to dig into the body, and we've got to understand what is preventing the body from healing. It'll be something. Maybe it's energy. Maybe it's some really strong, really bad imbalances. Maybe it's nutrition. Maybe it's digestion, whatever. But we've got to go in there, and we've got to understand, profile the body. And this is what we're going to be learning through this course. Profile the key mechanisms that are responsible for healing us, and bring them back into balance. And as you bring them back into balance, your body will start to heal. It can't be anything else. All right. And we've got to get away from the notion that we can actually hijack that process. That healing process is incredibly complex, and no one will ever work it out. It's massive. There's so many different variables and whatnot. That doesn't matter. The body manages that. All we've got to do, or the machine, I'll say the machine. I know it sounds a bit cold saying the machine, but the machine manages that. We've got to balance the machine. We don't want to be like taking a broken down car to a different fuel station and expecting the car to work better with a different type of fuel. It won't. It's broken. All right? We fix the car, and then we can put any type of fuel in there, and it will probably work quite well. Okay, so it's all about enabling, and it's all about looking at a person and saying, right now, you're at status quo. Your body is status quo. Nothing's changing. Nothing's going to change unless you change either something you bring into your body or you fix something within your body. Okay, and more often than not, it's fixing within the body that's going to do the job. Okay, and enabling the body, giving it the resources, giving it the energy, giving it the ability to move electrons around the body, giving it the ability to be able to be in balance with the circadian rhythm, which is the cell membranes and all this sort of stuff. All right, and this training is going to help you go in and identify, because everything's on a hierarchy. Everything, the sequence is everything. All right, a lot of people know what to do or have an idea what to do, but very few, when I say very few, a lot, tend to struggle with the sequence, because it's all about the sequence. Okay, and this is what this is going to be doing. I'm going to be always talking about a hierarchy, always talking about a sequence, because there's no point addressing one thing if there's a higher level system that hasn't been fixed, because we need to fix from the top down, from the most important down. If we don't have energy flow, what's the point of doing anything? What's the point of trying to focus on digestion if we're struggling to get electrolytes into the system, and the body can't hold on to the minerals and whatnot? Okay. Where does this work come from? Just a quick overview. Look, science, you know, anything that's proven science 100 years ago is still exactly right now. It's science. This work that I do, it's been around for quite a long time, but it's been around on a more of a individual sort of basis. And you can see here, you've got the Dr. Emmanuel Rivisi here. I do a lot. I practice a lot of his work, and especially when it comes to cell membranes and it comes to cancer and stuff like that. But see, Dr. Emmanuel Rivisi didn't have any interaction with someone like Dr. Kerry Reams, who focused on fluid dynamics, pHs, the digestion, the whole chemistry of digestion. All right, and Dr. Kerry Reams wasn't connecting with someone like T.C. McDaniel, who was all about cardiovascular, the Zeta Potential. We'll talk about that in a minute. The colloidal suspension, understanding the colloidal properties of the blood to be able to ensure that we can get good circulation and stuff like that. And then we got someone like George Watson, who's all about oxidation. George Watson, most people would have heard the term fast oxidizer and slow oxidizer. Well, who coined that term in the first place? Dr. George Watson. So let's go to him. Let's pull the best that he's got. Let's pull the best that T.C. McDaniel's got. Let's pull the best of Kerry Reams and Dr. Emmanuel Rivisi and some others, but these are the main ones, and pull them all together and say, let's get the best of Rivisi, best of Reams, and put it all together into some sort of structure so that we're having a truly holistic profile and viewpoint of what's going on. Okay, we live in an age of specialization, and I really think that's a big problem, because you know the cardio person doesn't really care what's going on with the renal person. So yeah, so the cardiovascular person has no idea what's going on with the renal person. The renal person doesn't know what's going on with the digestion person, and they don't really care. That's their area. That's their little empire. Okay, without really respecting and understanding that everything is linked. Everything, yeah. From the minute we wake up in the morning to what we think, what we eat, what we drink, who we mix with, our work, the outside environment, everything has an impact on everything. So we need to look at everything, and obviously, but yeah, it's about bringing everything together. And these guys, if you do some research and you do a little bit of Googling and have a look at these guys, these people's work, they were well before their time. And I think a lot of the work that I started doing 10 years ago was a little bit of ahead of the time. All right, it's only now that we're really starting to move in and starting to hear a lot more about cell membranes, a lot more about liposomal technology. Where did that come from? Dr. Emmanuel Rivisi, all right? He did a lot of work with cancer therapy using liposomal technology, wrapping up things like selenium and lipids, and then delivering that lipid to the cell, and the lipid was such a way that it switched the cell membrane open. It would deliver the selenium, high dose. You had to get it through the system, things like that. So a lot of what you see today, it's nothing new. It's just been rehashed. And I think, to be honest, a lot of healing and not only mainstream, but also a lot of natural medicine, it's just been commercialized. And everyone's just lost the plot. We've lost the plot with getting too complex about things. Let the body deal with the complexity. All right, what we're going to do is balance the body. All right, come down here. Okay, it's time to build your bio dashboard and learn objectively how to understand what your body is trying to tell you. This is what this is all about, okay? People understand more about the operation of the car than they do the body. If only we knew how to interpret what our body was telling us, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And this is what this course is all about. It's about being able to profile and identify what's going on in the body. And when we do take action and we do start a protocol and we do start doing some supplements and whatnot, being able to determine and interpret whether what you're doing is working or not. Because, you know, we don't want to go to, say, we go and see a nutritionist or a naturopath or whatever, and we get some supplements and, okay, we have a session and we'll come back in 4 weeks' time. And then we come back in 4 weeks' time and we're, oh, well, that didn't work. Oh, we've got to change that. Well, we just wasted 4 weeks. Okay, so if you look close enough and you track this stuff, you will start to see very, very powerful patterns that there's no other way of ever identifying these things. You've got to measure, you've got to track, and we've got to have our own dashboard. And we do, and we'll talk about that in a minute as far as the tracking and having everything online and whatnot. Okay, so we all know about an engine. You know, we jump into a car, we've got you know, fuel light, we've got indicators, we've got oil light, we've got all this feedback to give us an idea of what's going on. If we didn't have that, it'd be very difficult to drive the car. But we don't have a light on our tummy to say, hey, we're dehydrated, or, you know, these things are going on, we need to, you know, whatever. We don't have a dashboard as such, but we do have a means to be able to do the same thing, understand on a day-to-day basis how our body is performing. And if we can do that, especially if we're doing it when we're not sick, we can then start to move into where we need to move into, which is prevention. The new cure is prevention. There's no question. Okay, sure, this stuff is very powerful to help people heal and support them in their healing, and depending on what's going on, regardless if it was cancer or cardiovascular, whatever. But what if we didn't get sick in the first place? We don't need a cure. And this is what needs to happen. And this is my whole thrust, my whole mission in life, is to get this work out there so that we can start getting to the point, changing this thinking and getting out of the mind that we have to prevent. And it's so much easier to prevent illness in the first place. And I'll just very, very quickly, I'll take cancer as an example. You know, there's 2 or 3 little simple tests that you can do in minutes that will give you feedback and tell you whether you are in more of a higher risk of developing tumors, for instance, or cardiovascular or whatever. Simple little tests you can do that can just, you can do this on a day-to-day basis and keep yourself out of that range. And that's what this is all about. But to do that, we have to measure, we have to profile, and we have to have the feedback, and we have to track. We have to see the patterns. And I work with a lot of people on a coaching program over a 12-month period. And when we do that and we track, it's absolutely mind-blowing about what your body reveals. And like I said before, it's stuff that you'd never be able to find out. It's so subjective if we don't do this stuff. Okay, I'm not going to talk all through that. You can go back and read this afterwards. Okay, let's look at some of the topics that we're going to be going through. Digestion. Now, everything gets back to digestion. All right, but a lot of people will think of digestion, well, that's, stomach acid, maybe some digestive enzymes. No. Yeah, of course, but it's so much more than that. All right, if we look at digestion and assimilation and liberation of minerals, it's all about opposing forces. All right, it's all about opposing forces. It's all about the opposing forces of acid and alkaline. And it's a shearing of these forces that liberate the minerals. And he talks about that because we must have the right pHs in the right place for that to happen. And through this course, we'll learn how to do that. We'll learn how to interpret that. And to be honest, I think this is one of the biggest elephants in the living room with a lot of people's health, and especially digestion, is not understanding the physics of it and the physics of assimilation. Okay? Because we're just too carried away we're plastered all the time with sups and take this and take that and, suppress your hydrochloric acid and, beta blockers and, all these sorts of things, antacids and whatnot, which is going to do nothing other than just completely mess a person up. And I guess like I said, everything gets back to digestion, but when digestion is out for long enough, which it is for most people that are sick, what happens is we tend to get some other of these mechanisms out of whack. And we can't just work on digestion. You probably could, it will take an enormous amount of time. It's about identifying which other areas are out of balance and where do they sit in the hierarchy. And that's gonna point us and give us direction as far as what we need to do today. And then what we do next week will depend on the feedback from our body, okay? This is what I did when I got very, very sick 10 years ago. This is what got me into this work. For those of you that don't know, I had a heart attack, I had fibromyalgia, I had liver stress, I was a mess, okay? And I started looking for help. I went to mainstream first, and I threw that, and I gave that away very, very quick because everyone was telling me something different. But what surprised me, as I did more research on the internet and books and whatnot, I also found in even natural health, there was a lot of conflicting information, a lot of confusion. I'm like, well, surely everyone can't be right. And they probably were right, but they were right for them. They were right for them. Every book that's written on a diet is probably perfect for the person that wrote it, but not other people. All right, we're all biologically unique, and unless we understand that uniqueness, we're going blind. Okay, electrolyte and mineral issues. This is a big one. This is on top of the hierarchy. This is the first thing that we test. And I can tell you now, I can almost guarantee anybody that's got any help with their health have never been checked to see, do we have the means to move electrons around the body? Do we have the power switch turned on in the first place? Because if we don't, what's the point of doing anything else? We don't have the resources, the body can't do it. Sorry, it might help a little bit, and this is why you take sups, you feel better for a while, and after a while you go, oh, it's just gone back to where it was. Of course, because we're tackling things at the wrong level. So electrolytes and mineral issues are a big one, and the majority of people I work with will have an issue in this area. They just don't have the energy. The switch isn't turned on, and they're wondering why they're not fixing. Okay, the next one on the hierarchy is cellular membrane dynamics. I know this sounds a bit technical, yeah? Don't worry about this. This is aimed at everybody, this course, all right? It's not just for professionals, all right? As you go through, you'll understand this. There's some big words here, but believe me, I would never have learned all this stuff if it was that complex and hard. So the cellular membrane lipid dynamics, this is the anabolic, catabolic, you've all heard me talk about this. This is our circadian rhythm of life. Now, do you think it's important to understand where that is? Do you think it's, can you imagine if, say for instance, tomorrow the sun didn't come up or the sun didn't go down at the end of the day? Can you imagine the chaos in nature that would happen as a result because of the environment change? And the same was with us. We have a circadian rhythm. Our membranes open in the morning. All right, this is why we wake up, because our membranes open. Now we have more oxygen. Oh, I'm awake. Because we have more energy now. Because at nighttime, your energy goes right down because you go into a different state. Now, so in the day, we wake up and we're the factory of life is in motion. You know, we're detoxing, we're metabolizing, we're breaking down. It's not until the evening, until late in the day, that we move into this anabolic state. Okay, circadian rhythm, catabolic, anabolic. Everything I'm talking about here does a diphasic, except digestion. So anabolic, catabolic. Now, if we don't move into that anabolic state at night, or we didn't in the evening, or we didn't move out of it in the morning, we're going to run into so many problems because we're not getting, we're not having that balance with what's coming into the cells, what's coming out of the cells. And this is where we run into problems with tumors and stuff like that. So the cell, this is Revisi, a lot of this work comes from Revisi. Okay, so we're going to be doing a lot of work on that. I geek out on membranes. You will learn how to be able to manipulate membranes very, very quickly. Do you want to switch them on? You want to switch them off. We have a client or yourself, if we understand that I'm too anabolic, well, how do we get in there and change that? All right, now we can go mainstream. All right, so I'm very anabolic. I've got no oxygen coming in my tissues. Maybe I've got a tumor. What am I going to do? How do I get those membranes open? Well, you can go to mainstream and go get chemotherapy. And what's chemotherapy going to do? It's going to bang holes in cells to make them more permeable so oxygen can come in and kill the cancer. All right, you can do that very, very easily without going to chemotherapy, just using certain minerals and also understanding, of course, all the time, that if we're working on that, understanding the interconnections with everything else to make sure that we're not compromising something else. And you're going to learn all that, all right? And I guess one way of explaining this work is I'm not going to teach you any more than what you might already know about how the liver works or how the heart works or what. It's not about that. That's you can find that information anywhere. It's more about how do we think about this? Yeah, when we analyze this, when we see this, how do we think about the patterns? How do we interpret this? And this is where a lot of this, the power of this course comes. It's like it's a thinking technology more than anything else. It's thinking technology, it's stuff we know, but we have never put it together in the way that we put together with this course. Because you just don't understand. So you get to the point where you might see a symptom, or you might see a condition or a disease, and you ask a couple of questions, bang! You've been able to go, okay, that's there, okay, that's the problem. And you'll do it without even thinking, okay? I do this stuff now without even thinking. And there are many variables, but the only way to start learning them is to start doing them for yourself, and you will start learning them. It's like riding a bike. And when you start learning some of these, before you know it, you go like, I know what that is. Oh, you've got that going on. What's your pHs? What's your blood sugar? Aha. All right. It's so powerful. It's brilliant. Okay. It's a blast. Energy production. This is all about whether our body is balancing the metabolism of carbohydrates and fats. Okay, do we have a gallbladder that's working? If we don't, well, we're going to struggle with fats. If we're going to struggle with fats, we're going to struggle with consistent energy. We're going to struggle with 50 to 70 trillion cell membranes because they will have fats. They will have bilipid membranes. Do you think it's important that we understand and we make sure that we do have the ability to be able to emulsify, break down, and assimilate fats? Did you know that fats were actually brought into the body through the lymphatic system? Okay, it's through lymphatic. How many people have lymphatic stress? Many. How many people are struggling with gallbladder? Many. Okay, so we work on the gallbladder, we work on the liver, we open up that pathway, and all of a sudden things start to happen. And energy production, this is like fast oxidizer, slow oxidizer, and this is where we have a really big effect on weight loss and mental health and stuff like that. Okay, we've got to get it in balance. We need carbs. I look at carbs as the kindling to the fire, and the logs are the proteins and the fats. If we don't have the proteins and the fats, this is going to be our life, yeah, because our body is struggling to get the fats. Now you can imagine a body that is predisposed to having problems burning carbs for energy, and we have a gallbladder that's struggling as well. What's going to happen? Are you going to have any energy? No, there is none. You're in the zone of misery. Your body is struggling to burn carbs, and it wants to burn fats, but it can't because it doesn't have the mechanisms to do so. So you can start to see how important this stuff is, all right? Because I see this all the time, okay? The autonomic nervous system, the pH system, regulates the system here of the body. Look, with the nervous system is a reactionary system, okay? And it will react according to the stresses within the body and stresses outside the body as well. But if we've got imbalances with electrolytes and our membranes are out of whack and our oxidation's out of whack, well, our nervous system's going to be like, it's going to be all over the place. It's going to be reacting. So the nervous system and the pH side of things are really like the tail of the biological dog. Yeah, they will wag according to what's going on up here. Once we start fixing these things up here, you'll start to see the pH come into balance. You'll start to see the nervous system come into balance, just like magic. And it happens. Okay, it happens as you start focusing on these numbers and move away from subjectivity and focusing on symptoms or conditions, which are every illness is nothing other than a symptom of a body that has the inability to be able to manage it. It can't be anything else. Not everyone gets a virus is going to die or get sick. So what's the difference? It's the body. It's not the virus. It's not the cancer. The cancer is only there because the environment allowed it to be there. And it's a dead cert. If you provide the environment for cancer, you know, low oxygen delivery to your cells or your tissues, you're not eating properly, you have some stress, a few other things, what's going to happen? Cancer, tumors. Okay, so what do we got to do? How do we get oxygen into the system? How do we do this? How do we do that? We've got to work at everything. Okay, Zeta Potential. We're going to be doing a lot of work on Zeta Potential. This comes from T.C. McDaniel and a guy called Thomas Riddick. He's a colloidal chemist. Once again, this sounds a bit like technical, right? It is not. It's not that technical. You think of anything in suspension, you know, anything in solution, and it's in suspension. It's not settling. Every one of those particles in suspension and any solution have a negative charge on the outer edge. And it's a negative charge against negative charge that keeps these things discrete, these particles. Now, if we look at blood cells, it's our blood system, it's no different. Every red blood cell has a negative charge around the, well, it should have a negative charge, a very, very, very slight negative charge on the outer edge. And so that when it comes across another red blood cell, what happens is they just bounce off. This is how we keep circulation. This is how we keep cells apart. We prevent coagulation. It's all about, and Zeta Potential is really just about the measurement of the degree of repulsion, if you like. You know, how strong is that? How strong is that force? And if we have a body that's very high level of medicines or toxins or eating processed food and whatnot, all processed food, and the negative charge, just remember the negative charge, okay? So it's a negative charge. All processed food, all toxins, all these medicines, they're all positive charge. This is why they're a problem, okay? They're a positive charge. So if you eat a lot of processed food, you're bringing in all these protons, and we want electrons, we want negatively charged particles, and we're bringing in all these positively charged, and what happens? We start to disrupt Zeta Potential, and cells start to stick together. They're not dispersing anymore. They're sticking together because they've lost that charge. Remember, similar charges will disperse, opposites will attract, okay? So it's a big deal, because obviously circulation is very, very important, okay? unless you have a dark field microscope on your desk, it's difficult to be able to understand whether the blood is coagulated or not. How much of a problem is that causing? Is it if we're coagulated? It's a massive thing because we're not getting nutrition into cells and we're not getting oxygen into the cells. Our energy comes right down. We're not detoxing properly, okay? Because we don't have that flow. Our river of life is dried up. Our river of life is agglutinated, okay? You will learn some techniques where you can change this in 10 minutes, okay? I used to do it in clinic. I'll look at someone's blood, coagulated, and I'll say, here, do this, or now, depending on what you do, would depend on the chemistry at the time. It's not the same for everybody. And you can make the difference, and you can see the difference within 10 minutes. Grounding is also very, very important. This is why grounding is so good for circulation. That grounding is very good for health. We should all be grounding. And if you're not grounding, you have to ground. It's the most important part of my protocol. It's right at the top, is grounding. Why? Because you're bringing in all the electrons, negatively charged. Okay, I'm sure some of you have been stuck, have a bit of a cold or sinuses a bit blocked up. What happens when you go to the beach? You have a swim. Oh, I'm so clear. I feel so good. Electrons. And the air, the salt air as well. It's a negatively charged. Disperse, flow. Okay, it's critical. Free radicals and antioxidants. We go into that a little bit as well because a lot of people, some people don't need antioxidants. Some people need to oxidate more. We need more oxygen. All right. Remember that oxygen, the fact that we breathe in oxygen in the first place, dictates that we will die eventually. If we don't die from something else, we'll die from the breakdown because oxygen is an unstable molecule. We need it. We need it to be unstable because it gives us energy. But you can imagine there's too much of it. That's when we get breakdown. We age quicker and we get cellular degeneration. And this is where we can get cancers as well because everything's just a little bit messy. So you need to understand that. Reduction and oxidation. I guess these two are basically the same. We sort of cover that, reduction and oxidation. It's just that balance. Yeah, balance and understanding energy flow through the body. And understanding when you're working for yourself or you're working with a client, being able to look at that and say, do you have this flow? Is the power switch turned on? Okay. Protein metabolism, this is another area that we're going to, it's throughout. I guess the protein metabolism sort of impacts on a lot of these systems, but we'll be putting a lot of emphasis on this because I have no doubt that a lot of cancers, especially in the lymphatics system, are started or begin life as congestion in the lymphatic system because of protein molecules that haven't been broken down, because we haven't got enough hydrochloric acid, we haven't got enough bile, we haven't got the right pHs in the digestive tract to be able to break these molecules down enough. So we're bringing a molecule into the body, and what happens is a large molecule, it can actually pop out. Well, there's two things can happen. The body looks at it as an invader, and if your liver's struggling and whatnot, and it can't deal with it right now, well, you're going to put on weight because it will wrap it up into a fat cell and stash it away. It can't deal with it. But some of these molecules actually pop out of the bloodstream into the tissues. And this is where they can start to get stuck if we've got a sluggish lymphatic system. And if that happens, we're in trouble. Because then we get coagulation, there's no oxygen. What's going to happen? We're going to get acidic. Right? Now that acid didn't come from what we ate. Yeah? It comes from within. Oh, cancer tumor. Cancer doesn't come directly from what you stick down your throat. It comes from imbalances within the body. And what you stick down your throat may have some impact on that, of course, but it's not a direct thing. Meaning, well, if we alkalize and it must be better. Absolute nonsense. And you'll learn that through it, okay? Very, very powerful stuff. The science behind weight loss. I'm going to do a section on it because look, there's a lot of people, everyone wants, not everyone, but it's a big deal with a lot of my clients. They want to lose weight. And we've got to understand why is the body holding on in the first place? And I will cover that. We'll have a section on that. It's brilliant. You'll really get to understand the science behind weight loss. All right. Like everything with this work, when you understand it and you see it, you go like, oh, that's so damn obvious, isn't it? Yeah, it is. We're thinking too complex. It's not complex. We're not complex. Yeah. A zebra in the middle of national park in Africa doesn't think about what he's eaten, or if he's got enough amino acids, or should he take some MSM or something like that. The zebra is just is. It's in the environment. It's in the right environment. And therefore, it just happens. And we're the same. It's not complex. It's not complex. Nutrition in your mind, we talked about George Watson before, and this is, once again, you know, there's a lot of people with anxiety, depression and stuff like that. It's a big deal. Now, we're not going to necessarily go in and have a whole thing on, I'm not an expert on depression, all right? But what I am an expert on is being able to get our body into a balanced, especially with digestion and oxidation and stuff like that. So, because that has such a big impact on depression and anxiety and stuff like that. If we don't deal with that, we don't deal with anxiety or stress, because we don't have the buffer or the robustness, if you like, or I'll go one step higher, adaptive capacity. Yeah, 4 people can be in one room and there can be a bit of stress coming. There's some stressful news. Everyone's going to react differently according to their ability to be able to buffer that stress. Shit happens. The question is, how does your body respond? Okay, so that's another way of looking at this work. It's building adaptive capacity. You can't stop some things happening, but you can prevent. You can work on how your body responds to those stresses. And if you don't have good adaptive capacity, and you're anxious and you're stressed, and we've got all this going on, we've got poor digestion, we've got no energy flowing, what's going to happen? Stress comes along, bang, here we are, down. Yeah. If stress happens to me, or a perceived stressful situation with me, I'm not a Puritan with everything. Sometimes I'll go and have a drink or something like that. Not very often, but I do. That will put a bit of stress on the body, but my body just goes straight back. All right, no impact. All right, we don't want this. This is where everybody's at. The body can't deal with it, and when it can't do that, what's it going to do? It's going to start stealing, and it's going to start robbing other parts of the body to try and make up the slack. And we've got to understand which parts of the body have been compromised to do that. Body doesn't care. It'll put you in a wheelchair with osteoporosis and crumble your bones if it needs minerals for the blood to keep you alive, because priority is to keep you alive, of course. Priority is your blood and your cardiovascular system. If that's compromised, you're dead. So does your body care about does it care about other things? Does it care about a bit of inflammation over here? Does it care about your bones? Well, of course it cares about it, but there's a priority here. We need that, otherwise we're going to die. So we'll go to the bones, we'll take it, we'll make it a cripple. All right? We've got to understand what your body has compromised in order to, it's a little bit like a live blood test. Sorry, not a live blood test, a mainstream blood test. How many people have gone to a doctor, sick as a dog, get a blood test, come back next week, doctor says, all looks good, go home, you're stressing, take some pills. You got depression. There's nothing wrong because the blood test comes back okay. And that is because the blood is a compensated fluid, which means the body will compensate it from wherever to make it look good. So if you can physically walk into the doctors and get have a blood test, the chances are it's going to come back okay. And you go like, well, it's not okay. I'm sick. You think I'm crazy. We've got to look deep. We've got to look deeper. We've got to dig in and understand what has been compromised, what part of the body has been compromised, because that's going to be your focus to fix. All right, because that's where the problem is. All right, the blood will always, of course, the blood is going to look good. Otherwise, you'd be dead or very, very sick. Here, observing the dance. One of the things that we did have a section on the last program that we did I did a video on the bloods, and we talked about different conditions and stuff like that. What I'm going to be doing with this program is a lot more detailed. So as we go through the learning, if we're going to be talking about inflammation, coagulation, all these sorts of things, you know, liver issues, what I'm going to be doing is bringing in actually live blood videos and also dry blood when we need to. We'll be bringing those in at certain times so that you can understand and have a much better understanding of what's going on. Because if you can understand those connections, you know, everyone talks about inflammation. Yeah, well, let's come down here. Look at this one here, liver bowel stress. You see all this little white oh, hang on. This white webbing, this is all the result of inflammation. Now, if you can see that, it helps, it really massively helps you be able to put everything together, yeah? Because you're not blind anymore. So I'll be bringing in, well, I've got lots of videos, and if we, and they will be peppered throughout. And if, like I said, if I'm discussing something, and let's have a look. What does it look like? What's going on in the blood? Yeah? You know, do we have an immune system that's working properly? We might have an immune system, but is it working? Are they viable and stuff like that? And you'll get an appreciation. Undigested minerals, things like that. Also toxins and stuff like that. Get an idea of how the body deals with this. And that's going to help you problem solve because you've got the whole picture. So live blood, I'm not going to read all that. And then we've got the dry blood. Most of you are aware of the dry blood because that's what I do, because I can't do live blood. All right, very, very powerful stuff when you try and put everything together. All right. I'm going to skip through that. Okay, with the bloods, with the dry bloods, everyone's going to have the dry blood done as part of the. That's what's included in the cost. And as we move through the training, we can then refer back to our blood, as we will be also doing the metabolic analysis as well, which I'll touch on in a minute. We'll be doing that quite early so that you've actually got. It's a real thing. It's you. This is practical stuff. And as you learn it, you can refer it back to yourself as opposed, or a client, as opposed to like, oh, I don't know, how that, you know, that doesn't sort of make sense. It doesn't relate to me. All right. I want to really bring that home as far as having that that close connection with relating what we're learning to yourself or to your clients or whatnot. All right, because then you can try stuff and you know we'll track it. Okay. Quantifying the numbers behind the pictures. This is what we're talking about, the metabolic analysis. Most of you have seen this. How powerful is this? Who does this? Who understands, or who breaks down the body into mechanisms? And these are diphasic. You can see there's two sides. We're talking about the circadian rhythm of everything, yeah? Two sides. Don't worry about reading the detail, you can't. Every one of these systems. And if we were to, you know, think about this for a second. You think about a car. It's got a motor. That's what gives it the, it burns fuel and it creates energy and it moves the car. Now that motor has a number of components. It has the engine, it has starter motor, it has all these different components. And if one of those components wasn't working properly for some reason or enough, what's going to happen? Well, either the car's not going to work at all, or it's not going to work very well. We have to fix that component. The component might only be a tiny little thing, insignificant. You might think it's insignificant. And it's the same with us, with this work. All right. If we were to look underneath the bonnet of our healing mechanism, and we were to try and get the key systems that must be in balance. And this page here, this comes from Revisi, Dr. Kerry Reams, T.C. McDaniel. It's bits from all of them put into one bit. And if we were to look at this is mapping out our healing mechanisms. And you can imagine every red box is a marker that's out of balance. And then this is what we use to help us analyze what's going on and interpret what's going on. And you will be doing this quite early as well. So once again, you'll have this sheet. And you're also going to have access to all the software, the spreadsheets, the questionnaires, everything you can have access to. I want everyone to become a biohacker, ideally. I've already started it. It's already starting to happen in the UK. All right? Because get this stuff out there and you start doing it for yourself and you go like, holy cow, this is so cool. I want to start doing it professionally. Brilliant. Do it because people need it. Okay? So it all based around these numbers here. Okay? And while I'm looking at this, I'll just emphasize the fact that when we do this work, we've got to be careful about jumping to conclusions. I mean, if we look at digestion here, well, it's pretty obvious. It's red, 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 red. This person's digestion is absolutely sucks. But if we've got digestion sucks, we're not going to get minerals. Oh, they've got a mineral issue. And digestion sucks, we're probably going to have problems with gallbladder and liver. Oh, brains. Yeah. So it's about really having a look at the pattern and not jumping to conclusions. Because when I did my training, everyone was like, oh, can we, oh, I know it's this. No. Go through the whole process. Look at the numbers, look at the clients, ask some questions, look at the numbers, ask questions, look at the client. Is this matching up? Does it make sense? And when I go through a consult with clients with this, I can almost guarantee nearly everyone I go through, by the time we get to the end, we're both on the same page. Client understands that I know what's going on, has the confidence that's going on, because we've got to get that confidence. We've got to get that confidence with clients. And this is another tool for doing that, because compliance, if you're working as a professional here, most of you will be well aware that a lot of people, same with me, I've got people who've ordered tests and probably 60 or 70, they've never done them because they're not willing to do the work. They're not willing to comply. They don't have the trust, the confidence. They've lost confidence in everything. They don't know what to believe anymore. Everyone's saying. So when you go through this, you quantify the stuff, right? It's so powerful. Even just using it as a tool to get your client to comply, or yourself to be confronted with the truth. It's gonna push you. You've got to push you. And the only way you're going to do that is get up and step up into the scales. And then you're going to take some responsibility, because now you know. Now you've got to, before you didn't know. It's like someone losing, like a lot of people that are struggling with their weight, they won't get up on the scale because they don't want to know. Because as soon as they know, they've got to take responsibility. It's okay not to know. It's not the same thing as knowing, and then knowing every day that I'm not doing something about it when I know I should. This is what this does. It can be confronting, but it needs to be confronting. Okay. And also this is what we use to try and identify the types of supplements we recommend as well, because it's not just a matter of taking this supplement or that. Say magnesium. Okay, there's so many different types of magnesium. Magnesium chloride, well, magnesium chloride will lift breath rate. What if breath rate's already too high? Oh, don't take magnesium chloride. Maybe we need to take magnesium glycinate. That won't lift blood rate. Or what about this? It all depends, not just the type of supplements and minerals, it's the charge. It's the charge. Does it have a negative charge, or does it have a positive charge? Because, and then you've got to understand where your body is to know which one to do, because it can make all the difference. This is where the real clever stuff comes in. It's so clever when you see it, but it's so obvious when you see it too. But it's just got to be articulated in a way that you'll understand, and I plan to do that with you. Okay. As I said, all participants will be measuring. That's going to be part of the process. So, like I said, we go through practically. All right, very quickly. Some of you are aware that I have well, it's not mine. It's part of the group of people that are doing this work around the world. There's an online client management system that's been developed by a guy called Tony Hale, he's a coach, but he's also a movie producer in LA, and he's actually producing a movie called Why Am I So Fat? Sounds horrible. I think it's called that. Why Am I So Fat? It's all based on this work. Okay. When this movie comes out, my life is going to go mental, because everyone's going to go, where can I get this work done? All right. So it's called Why Am I So Fat? I think it's called. You've got to keep an eye out there. It's dragging on because it's expensive, and COVID problems and stuff like that. But he did the training, and he said we need a system to be able to manage all this stuff, because otherwise it's so much variables. How do we keep track of this? And he developed. He set up a non-for-profit organization that developed this platform. It's brilliant. Okay, so part of the it's a $20 on top of everything else. So the $20 separate. It's not paid to me. It's paid directly to this thing. And this system, I'll just quickly go through. It's used to be able to track, to trend, to be able to learn about stuff, to be able to manage supplementation, to be able to communicate through me and whatnot. But for the purpose of the training, it's going to be really good to be able to keep track of the numbers, because as we go through and we have some live sessions and stuff. Well, let's have a look at your coalition. What's going on? Have a look at this. We start to see these patterns. Yeah. Once again, if you look close enough and you look long enough, you're going to see everything, because they eventually show. The patterns start to show. But you can imagine if we're not measuring this stuff, it's like running a business without having KPIs, budgets and stuff. You haven't got a clue how you get what's going on. No money in the bank. Why? I have no idea. Because we're not measuring anything. We're not moving towards anything, all right? And this is what this helps to do. And this is where you really get the true empowerment, because you start to see the patterns. And when I work with clients over a 12-month period on coaching and stuff like that, we see this. And it's so rewarding to be able to talk to a client And I say after a couple of months or something like that, and they say, oh, you know what happened last week? I felt terrible. I had a headache. I had this, blah, blah, blah. But I can remember what you said. And I measured my sugars. I did this, and I realized that this was out of whack. And I did this, and I did this, and I fixed myself. But you would never have done that if you didn't measure and monitor. All right? Remember, we're like a bowl of chemicals, yeah? Bowl of chemicals with chemistry and energy. If I add something to that right now, it has an immediate effect. If we add something to our body, it has an immediate effect, but we don't look close enough and we don't look long enough to be able to see it. So we wait until it manifests into something, into our conscious, into something we're mindful of. And it might be 6 weeks, it might be 6 years. All right? Everything has an effect. It's being able to understand what that effect is and not waiting 6 months before you found out that it was a negative effect. Okay. Just quickly go through. You can look at this afterwards, right? I'm not going to go into detail here, but here's just an idea. Just some of the pages from the system. You can see pH graphs here, weight graphs, blood pressures, stuff like that. I think they're the same there. And you can imagine starting to see some of these, say for instance, pHs, and understanding, okay, this state, we come right down here, we're inverted pHs here, which is a problem. What caused this? Well, we can look at all the other variables and everything else and understand at the same time what else is going on. We got it. We didn't have to wait 6 months to try and work out a problem that could be worked out immediately. Okay, you have a look at those anyway. Weight graph. This is interesting. This is a real graph. Is it a real graph? Maybe I exaggerated a bit just to make it look really good. But when I work with people over a period of time, which means I am practically applying this work ongoing, like you would yourself once you learn this, what happens is we start to come into balance. If we're overweight, our body will start losing weight. And if we're underweight, we'll start gaining weight. We'll start to normalize. Right? It's amazing to see. I see it all the time. This is why I get so damn excited about this, because it's like, my God, this is so powerful. Even after 10 years, I look at it sometimes and go like, crikey, my God, why isn't this out there more? Why aren't we looking at this stuff? Managing subs and stuff like that, imbalances. There's a lot of information on there as well. It's similar to information to what I talk about, but nowhere near as much detail, of course, as well. But, and bloods and stuff like that. So when we do your bloods, we'll get them uploaded to the coalition. So then we're talking, we're having a live session or whatever. Oh, hang on, let's have a look. And can you imagine the power, the learning power of actually, rather than me going like blah, 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 blah for 3 hours, teaching you something about, theory, we've got Joe Blow, he's got a problem. It's a real life example. Let's have a look at the bloods and we all work through that. And then we start to understand more about the thinking behind why we do certain things. Why do I make this decision or not that decision? What dictates my thinking? Right? You've got to learn that. That's all it is, thinking technology. Stuff on, okay, down here, food journals and stuff like that. All right, we're gonna have a Q&A session in a second. Course details. Look, we're gonna start on the 23rd of November. I think it's about 5 weeks on Monday. I've got a lot of work to do between now and then. Of course, we want to get some people on the course as well. So give it about 5 weeks. But the exact structure, how I build in live sessions, a lot more live sessions than I did before, how I build in practical exercises for you to do, because there's going to be some of them. Right? You're going to have to do some work. I want you to go away. I want you to start measuring some stuff. Let's get feedback. What happened? Let's debrief this stuff and let's learn. Okay. So the exact process, I haven't nailed down correct. Yeah, I've got most of the information. I didn't put it together, but it starts on the 23rd of November. All right. What's included, just very, very quickly. So this course it's multimedia, yeah, mixed of videos, voice recordings, case studies, practical activities, Q&A sessions over a 24-week period or thereabouts. Okay, and everything's going to be accessed through the through this system. One other thing too, when you sign up for this course, you're also going to get access to a resource and knowledge base system that I'm developing as part of my new platform. And what does this mean? Well, there's literally probably going to eventually be hundreds of videos, right? I'm going to be covering, I need to do a brain dump. I could die tomorrow. Something can go wrong. And there's a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that needs to be captured, and it needs to be stored away where people can access it. So as you start learning, you might go, oh, I've got a catabolic imbalance, but I'm not really sure. Well, then jump onto the knowledge base and there'll be a video. This is a scenario. And I'll pop up and I'll explain the scenario. I'll explain how I see it, okay? And you're gonna have like all the tools, everything. It's gonna be a whole knowledge base, and it's also gonna be part of our group. All right, you'll have access to that for 12 months. Everything's gonna be on there, yeah? I wanna get on everything. All forms, spreadsheets, assessment sheets, everything I can think of, everything I do, all right? You are gonna have access to my brain in video, text, voice, graphic form, ultimately. Okay, it's going to be sick. It's going to be brilliant, and a unique experience. I know I touched on this earlier on, but you know, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind, after working with thousands of people over the years, is that we have to switch from relying on other people. We have to, well, not necessarily relying on it, but we have to be able to take back control of our own health and well-being. We have to take back responsibility. If we do that, we're going to prevent getting sick in the first place. But we have to start learning some of this stuff. We have to learn how to interpret what our body's saying to us. All right? It's not difficult. You can do it with some few tools in your bathroom cabinet and monitoring a few things. You'll learn how to do that so quickly. But we need to be able to take back control of our own health and well-being, because there's too much misinformation out there. That's not to mean you don't go and have to work with people, but you need to know, no matter what you're doing. If you're working with a kinesiologist, you're working with a nutritionist, you're working with a naturopath, you need to understand whatever's going on, is it helping me or is it not? All right? And it has to be that way. And to do that, you need the tools, you need the equipment, you need the knowledge, you need the understanding, you need the support to be able to learn how to do that. And that's what this course is all about, to give that to you. And it needs to be articulated in a way that you understand. And I will do that. You will have so many aha moments, all right? When I used to do presentations, I look at people, I always have an aim of how many ahas I'm gonna get, because I'm telling people the bleeding obvious, but they didn't see it. Yeah, I see it, because it's the way I think. It's so easy to me, all right? So you're gonna be like, aha, oh my God, I didn't think about that, but now I do. It's obviously so simple. That's what this is all about. It's not difficult, not difficult. Now quickly, this is not a microscopy course, so although I do bring in bloods, I do live bloods, it's all about, this is a learning experience. One day I may do a microscopy course if we've got enough people who want to buy microscopes and stuff like that, but this is not what this is, okay? Oh, what you're going to need to some of the gear that you're going to need you can do this course without getting any real technical stuff. If you've got a blood pressure monitor, a glucometer, a pH strip, and a timer, just with these three things alone and doing a couple of other measurements, you don't need a tool for. You can help change people's lives. All right, glucometer, sugars are everything, pHs are everything. We're going to know where they're at because they tell us whether our body's in or out of balance. And for those that want to go a little bit more deeper and practicing this as a profession, well, then you buy a pH meter. You get a proper meter. It's going to be a little bit more accurate. A conductivity meter. Anything to do with cardiovascular issues and stuff like that, conductivity is really, really important to understand, because you can do a reading, you can understand straight away whether your blood's glutenated or not, whether your kidneys are working properly or not, whatever. Refractometer. What does a farmer do? Harvest, it needs to, a farmer, say he's growing sugar cane. How does he know when to harvest? He'll cut a bit of sugar cane, he'll put a bit of juice on a refractometer and have a look to see how many minerals are in there. Sugars and minerals, all right? It's going to tell us, do we harvest now or do we wait a little bit longer? All right, and a refractometer is a simple tool, costs about 25 bucks. You'll learn how to use it and you'll love this because there's a couple of things you can do. One of the things you can do is you can go and quantify what's going on with the food that you're buying, especially when you're buying fresh food, vegetables, stuff like that. All right, we can all go to a market stall and go like, oh, look at that lovely bunch of celery. That's like $2. But over here, this scrawny little thing is like $4. I'm going to buy the cheap one. But then if you were to do a refractometer test and you look at it, you might see there's no minerals in it. There's nothing in it. It looks good. There's no minerals. And you go and do the test on the more expensive, holy cow, there's a lot of minerals in there. So it helps you get your head around the focus on when you buy food to buy units of nutrition, not by weight, not by look. And you can do that. It's crazy. I used to go to the markets, and I even go to a supermarket, have a look at the frozen food, the frozen veggies. You'll be amazed how much more minerals they have than a lot of the fresh stuff, because the stuff picked too early and stuff like that. And also for yourself, you can do your saliva, you can do your urine on this, and I'll teach you how to do this. And this is like, you know, if you're feeling a bit flat, you're feeling a bit down or whatnot, you look at the refractometer, you can almost guarantee it's something to do with your sugars, and this will pick up your mineral levels. You'll pick it up on the refractometer. Brilliant. In a second, your investment, US $1,399. Okay, that's for the 6 months plus the 12 months access to this knowledge base, which is going to be a paid access to other people that aren't necessarily going to do the course. It's just they will just want to access that information. But look, for 2 hours after after we finish the Q&A, let's get this going. I've brought that price down to $899. There's a link here. You can go onto this, find this documents on on the platform, and you can go in there. So after we finish this, you've got 2 hours. All right, where you're going to knock. This is $500 discount. All right, so if you're interested in just do it. All right, the price will go back up again after that. I may have some other small discounts for early birds and stuff like that, but this is really just for you guys coming on to the console. All right, so you can click on there, you can order it there. Just some legal stuff down there. Okay, that's it. That's finished the presentation side of things.